Well, here we are again, live without a net from the Operational Nerve Center of the Raptor G in southern Oklahoma. Today's podcast is going to be a little different than what you normally see with my brother and I. We got a good friend that's written a book that I think you guys ought to know about. Hope and Courage, Captain Mike Penn down in the Houston area. He's our guest today. And with that, Mike, how are you?
Doing great, Lynn. I like the live without a net. We know what that's like.
It is without a net, my friend. But, this book, I want to talk, but let's see. I've got that right here. Let me hold that up for people that want to start
cool.
looking for it on Amazon. Hope and Courage, Mike Penn.
Thank
It's a
you.
paperback version and also available in the Kindle version, correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Why don't you start us off just a little bit of inspiration and overview of what got you to writing this book and at your age?
Well, probably about 12, 13 years ago when I was speaking quite often. As a matter of fact, I was under contract with American Speakers Bureau in Orlando, Florida. And a guy named Frank Candy that owned the Speakers Bureau kept telling me to write a damn book. And I said, okay, well, I'll get to it. And then about once a year, he said, how's the book coming? And of course it wasn't. And then finally, about probably a little over 3 years ago, I started thinking about it. He kept asking me, of course, and we went to a speaking engagement up in Baltimore at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. I'm sure you know where that is.
Yeah.
NSA in the Army. And the U.S. Army hired us. They wanted one member from each branch of the service. Frank was a Marine. I was a Navy guy, of course. We had an astronaut, Air Force guy, and the Army guy was Rocky Blyer.
Oh, wow.
He used to be a running back for Pittsburgh. You know that.
Yeah.
Well, Rocky got injured really bad in Vietnam. The Pittsburgh Steelers drafted him from Notre Dame, but right after he got drafted by Pittsburgh, he got drafted by the Uncle Sam sent to Vietnam. Pretty severe injury to his right foot, and he retired obviously from the Army, and the owner of the Steelers kept him on for all the rehab and whatever it took to get him back. And the doctors told him he'd never play football again, and he proved them wrong.
Proved them wrong, didn't he?
Yes, he did. 4 Super Bowls. And he's got the 4 rings to prove it. Anyway, we all did our speeches, about 45 minutes apiece, and I went on last. And I'll never forget Frank. He introduced us all. He gets up. He goes, well, folks, we saved the best for last. Here's Captain Mike Penn. And he came up, and I shook his hand, and in his ear I went, Frank, you butthole. I'll never forgive you for that. Anyway, I did my thing, and it was about hope and courage, Lynn. And basically what I told people is lessons learned in the Vietnam prison camp, obviously in Hanoi. I learned that you could live about a month without eating because I went about a month without eating. I learned you could live about a week without something to drink because I drank some nasty stuff because I knew I had to. I was going to die. And you can't live one day without hope. Once you lose hope, you're done, because I saw it happen to guys. And I almost gave up myself, but I didn't. And I said, I need to put this message out because there may be a couple of folks or 1 or 2 out there that may need to hear that. Well, believe it or not, once I got done, we ended up talking to some people and everything. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye an enlisted young man in uniform that walked up to me and he said, Captain Penn, may I speak to you in private? And I went, absolutely. And he took me over there and he said, I just want you to know, sir, that this morning I made a decision to kill myself tonight. But because of what you said about hope, giving me the courage to never give up on myself, I'm going to be okay. I don't know how you could ever how I could ever repay you, Captain Penn, for saying this today. And I just looked at him. I said, son, you just did. That's all I needed to hear. And that's
That's a
why I
hell
wrote
of
the
an
book, Lynn.
inspiration to put this work in
And
progress. Yeah.
right after that, I said, I got to write the book. So that's when it started.
Very good. Very good. I know you're a Fort Worth boy. Grew up there, and a little bit of that. You want to? There's one particular how you got started going to some air shows or something. Tell
Oh,
me about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to well, first of all, my dad took me to a Thunderbird air show out at Carswell Air Force Base when I was a young kid, and I wasn't impressed. And of course, being the Navy guy, what do you expect me to say? But I really wasn't. Yeah.
Notice of
But
disclaimer.
yeah. And anyway, my best friend and I growing up, his dad was a B-24 pilot in World War II. He bombed Pulaski oil fields in Germany. And every time I'd go over to Jim's house, I'd get his dad to tell us an airplane story. Anyway, Jim and I went to all the air shows we could go to, but I was 16 years old. I went to the Blue Angel Air Show at Navy Dallas. I got a solo pilot to sign a picture for me. Well, that lit my fire, buddy. That's all I needed. I said, this is what I want to do. I was 16 years old, and I said, I want to fly a Navy fighter, and I want to land on an aircraft carrier. I said, I think that's going to be the coolest thing I could ever do. Well, in the daytime, I was right. At nighttime, you got to be nuts to do that. That's why we all get to be 30 years old. We bail out of the Navy. It's just scary as hell to land on that thing at night. I don't care how many traps you got. But anyway, that lit my fire. And the next year, we went back, and same solo pilot signed another. He was the lead solo that year, and he signed another autograph for me. And he said, you really want to do this, don't you, son? I said, yes, sir. Well, he gave me the old make good grades and go to college and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I believe you will. I'll see you in the fleet. And that lit the fire and didn't stop me. And
There you go.
I had to overcome a lot of obstacles to get there, but I did because of that burning desire.
Very good. Speaking of some of the obstacles, talk to me a little bit about. Tell us about the fast forward. You're in the Navy. Some Navy flight training. What did you go
Oh,
through, or what's that? Give us an idea of what that experience was like.
well, I'll tell you what, day one of officer training was the biggest shock I've ever had because my granddad was a 38-year-old Army veteran, CWO 4 retired. He was in the 112th Cavalry in New Guinea on horseback, fighting hand-to-hand combat in the jungle. Do you think he would give me a little idea what to expect? Oh, hell no. He didn't tell me nothing. The only thing he told me was later on when he found out that my squadron had orders to Vietnam. He said, Mike, I'm going to tell you two things. Don't ever always take care of your men, number one. Number two, never, ever give up. That's all he ever told me. But that ended up saving my life later on, I'll tell you about it. But that day one, Lynn, I got accepted into the cadet program. I was Goldie Hawn. I thought I was going to have my own condo and be waited on. And I walked in there with my little bag in one hand and a tennis racket over my shoulder in the other hand. Candidate officers came out and they went, hey, let me help you with your bags. We got your room all ready for you. And I went, oh, man, this is cool. This is going to be fun. Well, I got about a foot from the door. The bag goes flying by my head on one side, and the tennis racket goes flying by the head on the other side. Out of nowhere, this Marine Corps gunnery sergeant shows up right in front of my face and starts yelling and spitting at me. Honest to God, I really thought I'd walked into the wrong place. I thought I'd walked into an enlisted training center. And so he just yells at me and yells at me. And finally, after about 10 minutes, he says, do you have anything to say for yourself, you smart-ass college boy? Well, I put my hand on his shoulder. I looked at him right in the eye. Those two things you never do. And I called him Sarge. You don't call a Marine Corps gunnery sergeant Sarge. And I thought his eyes were going to pop out of his head, Lynn. And he just looked at my hand and looked at me. And next thing I know, I'm on the ground doing push-ups and he's standing on top of me. And I never done so many push-ups in my life. And that was my beginning of my Navy jet pilot career right there.
Anchors away, huh?
So what have I gotten myself into?
How long was your officer candidate school?
It was about 3 months. The first 2 weeks was yelling and screaming and doing all that stuff with the gunnery. So we had Marine Corps gunnery sergeants down there, and it wasn't as hard as Marine boot camp, but they weren't easy on us. It was pretty rough. But at that point, they were having too many officers flunk out of initial flight training. So they started a program where we went through 2 weeks of that harassment, and they sent us to Softly Field to fly the T-34.
Mm-hmm.
And we showed up out there, and we're wearing flight suits, got flight jackets. We're living in a BOQ with nobody yelling at us. We got beer machines. We thought we're high on the hog. So I think we did about 17 or 18 flights in the T-38 or T-34. And then we had to go back. We called it Poopyville. And we stepped off that bus, and that gunny sergeant was waiting for us. And he ran us through the double time down to the cross-country course, 1.8 miles through sand. And then we double time down to the obstacle course. And then we double time back. We lost about 4 guys on that deal right there.
Oh, wow.
But what was phenomenal was he was right there doing it with us the whole way. He never asked us to do anything that he wasn't right there doing. That was my first test of what leadership was really all about.
Yes, sir. You got to respect a guy like that. It's
Absolutely.
Not what I tell you to do, what I'm doing with you.
Yes, sir.
So
that's exactly right. And he instilled so much military bearing in me that I ended up being the regimental commander.
the triple nickel hero, huh?
Wasn't no hero, but I finally knew what I was doing and what I was supposed to do.
I went through a military flight program, and that's why I can giggle about that, because and I was a Gomer Pyle right off the farm, 18 years old when I, hey, how are you? But yeah, basic training wasn't anything physically or, the military stuff. Hell, I'd been playing combat from the TV show, for years by the time I got to basic training. So that was kind of fun almost, but flight school, the TAC officers, we had a CW2 or something as a TAC officer. That's when the screaming and rolling your underwear 6 inches and laying under your bunk instead of on it because you didn't want to have to remake it.
That's
all those
exactly
little
right.
tricks that gave me the giggles reading some of the stories here about your initial, because I could identify.
Yeah, flashed right back on that, didn't you, Lynn? Yeah.
But so the actual flight training, that was spread out amongst different planes and getting out your first carrier experience.
Yeah, we started out of the T-34 thing. You had flight grades. Of course, you got graded on every flight, just like you did when you're going through helicopter training. And the guys with the top grades got to pick. And everybody wanted jets, of course. So the guys that went to jets, which was me, went to Meridian, Mississippi. And we flew the T-2 Buckeye. The first one we flew was just a single engine one. Then we went to the next squadron, still at Meridian, and flew the twin engine T-2. And then we went down to Pensacola to train to land on the aircraft carrier in air-to-air gunnery. And what was amazing to me was they actually had an instructor pilot flying a T-2, towing a banner with 4 students with less than 100 hours shooting machine guns at that banner. Really?
That's an air medal award right there.
They must have lost a bet or something to have to do that. I mean, who in the world in their right mind? But we did that, and then we went out and landed on the ship, and we were so mechanical in at the training because we did it at outlying fields that had a meatball and all that. So we made a whole bunch of practice landings on the ground. Using all the same procedures. So basically, when we showed up at the ship, we rolled into the groove. We're looking at the meatball, the lineup, and airspeed. And those three things, that's what we did all the time. So it was really mechanical. The first time I actually made an arrested landing on the ship, I really don't really remember how I did it because it was so ingrained just mechanically to do it. And then I got my first cat shot, and I thought that was the greatest Disney World ride I'd ever been to.
Well, I reckon.
Firing off the, and I think we got 4 landings. That was it. And
Explain to those non-flyers, what's the meatball when you're on
it's
final?
the way you land on the ship. There's an optical landing system on the left side of the landing area, and it's a series of 3 datum lights spread out left to right. They're green, and right in the middle of it, we call it the ball, the meatball, and it's an amber light. And if you got it directly lined up with the green datum lights, that means you're right on glide slope where you should be. If it's above those green lights, that means you're too high. If it's below those green lights, that means you're too low. And if it turns red, that means you're in deep caca.
You're fixing to hit the potato locker.
Yeah, that's it, bud. And that's what you do.
Kind of like a visual ILS to
exactly.
To non-airplane types. So, and then you went to the fleet, or was there more training, more transitions?
No, there was more. Yeah, we did that, and then we went to advanced training. I went to Kingsville and flew the A4.
Oh,
and that's where we got all our. Oh, it was a great hot rod. It was very. Blue Angels flew that for a long time.
I saw them with the A4.
Yeah, it was a great machine. It really was. Plenty power, turned like crazy, and in fact, they used it in Top Gun to replicate the MiG-17 with the turning characteristics that it had. It was really good. And anyway, we flew that down in Kingsville to get instrument qualified, air-to-air comp, dropping a few bombs, and landed on the ship again. We got 6 more landings. And then we got our wings. And that was off to whatever aircraft you're going to fly in the fleet. And I got the A7.
A7s, yeah. I made a model of those once.
That's it. There's a model of it right there. See
there you go. How apropos. Okay, so initial qualification or I guess advanced qualification in the A7, and when you actually hit the fleet, then did you join the ship in Vietnam or leave port stateside?
No, we were still stateside. When you go to the training on the A7, every aircraft has a training squadron associated with it. And we called it the RAG. It stands for Replacement Air Group.
Mm-hmm.
You go through and you get trained to drop bombs and low-level navigation. And the biggest thing is you get to land on the ship at night. And which is the scariest thing known to mankind. I've got several Navy buddies that are astronauts, and every single one of them will tell you. In fact, one of my buddies in the book, Kevin was an Air Force guy, but he had an exchange tour with the Navy flying A6s, and he made a cruise. And all those guys will tell you that their heart rates are higher landing on the aircraft carrier at night than they are during a reentry in a space shuttle. And that's no kid.
In fact, I can believe that.
My heart rate was higher landing on the ship at night than I was getting shot at on combat missions on some of them. It's scary, man. That's why we all get to be about 30 years old. It's time to get out. We don't want to do that anymore. Had enough. But anyway, after that, we land on the ship. Then we go to our squadron. I joined my squadron in Lemoore, and we got ordered to go early to war. President Nixon ordered us. North Vietnamese invaded the South, so it was time to go bomb Hanoi again. So we packed up, left early, and went over and started flying combat missions.
Well, and probably your defining moment of hope and courage started shortly after that.
It certainly did. That was the day I got shot off the cat, and I didn't come back. And I don't know how much you want me to talk about it. I'll be happy to.
You take it wherever you want to go.
I was doing an Iron Hand mission, Lynn. Air Force calls it a wild weasel. Bottom line, you go in, two jets go in front of the strike group, and basically you have strike missiles. They have different ones nowadays. Back then we had strikes. And what happens is the enemy radar would lock you up and start shooting missiles at you. And the missiles we had, the strikes, would home in on the enemy's radar and blow it up. So if we were lucky, they'd keep it on, we'd blow it up. But ideally, we just wanted them to turn their radar off so they couldn't target the guys that were coming in and dropping the bombs. So
Yeah.
we did that. They shot a few missiles. I shot a few back, dodged a few missiles, and the strike group got in, popped the bombs, got out. Last guy called feet wet, which means I'm the last one over the water. And Ray and I said, okay, let's get out of here. So we turned around and headed toward the beach. Well, when we did that, they fired 3 missiles at us from behind. Well, you have to acquire SAMs visually, and you dogfight them just like you do another fighter. And the problem is you push over, and if it pushes over and heads at you, you know it's got your name on it. So you gain a bunch of airspeed, wait till it gets about 3/4 of a mile away, and you do a big high G roll into it, and it tries to make that turn, but it's doing Mach 4, so it can't. And a proximity fuse will set it off. So you just look at it, watch it blow up. You're far enough away, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And then you push over, wait for the next one, and that's what happened. While they were doing that, they shot more from behind us that we never saw. And as I pushed over, after dodging a missile to get some more airspeed, one from behind came up and hit me right in the tail. And
now, somebody, I guess in your book, that those SAMs were like a telephone pole. I mean, they're huge. What I'd call a rocket or missile, but I mean that got my attention of how I never realized how big those things were.
They were, if you look at telephone poles, that's exactly what an SA-2 looks like. It's that big.
Wow.
And it's going really fast. Yeah. And anyway, so airplanes on, everything behind my head's a fireball, and I went, oh, this is not good. So I turned the stick toward the beach, and the airplane turned. And then I looked down to my right, and here's another missile coming right at me. So I just turned the stick to the right to turn into it, and everything was frozen solid. The stick wouldn't even move.
Oh, wow.
So this thing just kept coming up, and I'm going, well, I'm dead. And this thing went right by my head about 10 feet away. The fuse didn't work, and it didn't blow up.
Oh, wow.
And I went, wow.
Somebody had different plans for you then.
Absolutely, Lynn. That was a God thing. Airplane then went out of control, and I basically upside down about a 50 or 60 degree dive. And I figure, well, better time to pull the handle and eject out of this thing. So I pull, most of us use the big face curtain. It comes down like that. And I pulled it and nothing happened.
Oh.
And then I really pulled it. and then it fired the seat, and I went out, and I was doing about 500 miles an hour. I tell you, it was the most violent thing I've ever been through in my life. It felt like running full speed into a brick wall and tumbling on top of it. Anyway, tore my left knee up, dislocated my right arm, and the good news is I'm in the parachute. I can't believe I was still alive. So I figured it'd break my neck at that speed, and it's supposed to, but it didn't. And the seat shouldn't have worked at that speed, but it did. And everything was really nice for about 2 seconds. Just a little wind.
2 seconds.
And, yeah, and then the bullets started ripping through the parachute as they're shooting at me from the ground. Yeah, and the thing that really saved my butt was I waited too long to eject, so I wasn't in the chute very long. So I hit the ground pretty quick, and I was in about a foot of water and some tall grass, and the bullets kept hitting all around me. Being the smart guy I was, I figured I better get the hell away from the chute. I'm going to die. So I popped the chute off, started crawling away, and sure enough, they were still shooting at the parachute. So I don't know how far I crawled, but I pulled out my radio and I talked to Ray, the guy I was flying with. I said, "Hey, Ray, just need you to know I'm on the ground. I'm alive, buddy. And there's a million of them down here." I said, "You better go home." He never did answer me. He was busy dodging missiles.
Mm,
Uh, but he heard my radio, replied. That's all I wanted people to know, that I was on the ground and I was alive.
yeah.
And about a minute later, they came up from behind me, hit me in the back of the head with a rifle, and it was all over with.
Welcome to Vietnam, huh?
Yep.
Now, from there over to the Hanoi Hilton.
Yes, sir. From that point right there, there was a bunch of villagers, about a dozen of them, and one regular NVA Army soldier. Well, these villagers, all they want to do is cut your head off. And when they had me on the ground, they tied my elbows behind my back with my boot laces. And they were just stealing my gun and my watch and all my stuff. And this one guy in front of me got a wild look in his eye, and he came running at me with a looked like a knife, but it's a piece of metal. And he lunged at me, and I lunged just as he was bringing the knife down, and he cut my neck open right here. Fortunately, didn't hit the big vein. And right after he did, this NVA soldier in uniform grabbed this guy, set him down, and went like that. Like, no, 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 you can't do that. We got orders to keep this dirt bag alive. And if he hadn't been there, they'd have cut my head off. It'd have been
Mm.
over with. But then a couple of water buffalo, couple of boat, and a couple of truck rides, and they took me to this prison in Haiphong, which is the big port city there.
I was going to say that's the harbor there from Hanoi.
Yeah, it
right?
is Haiphong Harbor. That's correct. And there was an old French prison there, and that's where they took my flight suit and gave me my fancy pajamas
You
to
jammies?
wear. Yep. And tried to get me to do a news conference, and I didn't. Anyways, about 9:30 in the morning when that happened, and they waited till it got dark, and they put a bag over my head and threw me in the back of a pickup truck and drove me right to the Hanoi Hilton. Didn't pass go, right through the front door.
Mm.
That's how I got there.
A wild ride. Now, 8 months
Yes, sir.
as
8 months.
a POW.
Yep. Yeah, the first, about the first 2.5 weeks or so was in a room 18, room by yourself. And that's where we got beat up and tied up, got guns stuck in our mouth and all that fun stuff. Wasn't nearly as bad as the guy that spent years over there, though. We were fortunate in that regard. And I got real sick. I was hurt real bad. My lower vertebrae on my back were cracked, and about the third day or fourth day, I really can't remember. Every inch of my body was covered with a mosquito bite, and my eyes were swollen shut. I couldn't see, and I got malaria, and I got real sick. So I wasn't in a good frame of mind to be talking to the guys. In fact, I just wouldn't talk to them, and I was so bad a shape. I hate to admit it, but when they stuck a gun in my mouth, I really didn't care if you killed me or not. I was in that bad a shape, not only physically but mentally. Yeah,
Definitely a low point of the whole
big time.
ordeal.
Yep.
Well, and now that was solitary, right, for the first few weeks, and
Yes.
the beatings would continue till morale improved. Is that
Yeah,
how
pretty much right.
how they operate? But
Yeah.
then you
Well,
were
the
able
way-
to kind of reunite with some other prisoners, and then actually into the larger group before it was all over.
Well, out of that one room, they put me in another area of the Hilton called Heartbreak Hotel, and that's where there's a little dungeon. It's what it looks like. You walk in it, and there's 4 rooms on the left, 4 rooms on the right. There's 7 by 7 on each side. It's got a 24-inch by 7-foot concrete slab. That was your bed with leg irons on one end of it, and they threw me in there and locked the door. And after the guards left, I heard this voice from across the hall, the gangway there, saying, "Hey, new guy, stand up in the window." And he was whispering this, of course. So I stood up in the window and I looked out. He said, I'm Captain Kevin Cheney. Who the hell are you? And I told him, and he said, what ship are you from? And I told him, and he said, hey, Gordy Page is down there in room 1. And I went, no shit. Hey, Gordy. I said, Gordy, we all thought you were dead. So, then after I said that, I realized, well, I probably shouldn't have said that. But Gordy was flying a photo F8 on a photo mission, and he had an F4 escort, and his F8 just blew up.
Oh,
And
wow.
the F4 guy never saw a shoot or anything, so we all thought he took a direct hit, and that was it. But what had happened, he did take a direct hit, and he was automatically somehow ejected. He never pulled the handle or anything, but automatically it just ejected him from the airplane. And he, other than pulling about 20 negative G's, he was basically unhurt.
Wow.
And when I finally got to see him, the whites of his eyes stayed bright red for about 3 months because of all that negative G action.
I reckon, yeah.
But anyway, once we were there, they'd pull us out of there and take us to talk to the supreme leader or whatever it was. At that point, they were just trying to get you to write anti-war letters and make videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But the interesting part is it'd been about a month without eating food. I just couldn't. I was too sick.
Mm.
So I'd push my food out underneath the door. And one day, Kevin got pissed. He said, damn it, Mike, I'm starving over here and I'm watching you push that food out the door. How about eating that stuff? You're going to die, buddy. And it was just something that clicked when he said that, man. And all of a sudden, I remember my granddad saying, don't ever give up. And I realized, I was just about done for. And not so much, physically wise because of not eating, but I'd lost hope. Because at that point, I thought, well, this war is never going to end. And I sure don't want to live in this rat hole. And it was that day that I made the decision that, nope, I want to live. So I better start eating this junk. So I just forced it down. And that's when I learned that survival in that environment it's a choice. Choice you have to make is whether you want to live or you want to die. And once you make the choice of you want to live, you just do what you got to do, and everything becomes normal, and you accept it.
Yeah. Wow. Now, how when you were released in March of 73?
Mm-hmm.
I
March 29th.
I was getting out of Army flight school the end of January of 73. We had gone home on Christmas leave with orders to Vietnam. We had a couple weeks off and then just had to come back and kind of basically finish, I think, most of the check riding was done. It was more out processing that we did there at the end of January, got our wings and our bar, and ended up going. Well, I wrecked my car, promised a couple of girls I'd marry them and spent on whatever little bit of cash I had. So it was like, oh, no, you got to send me to Vietnam, Korea, Germany, somewhere out of the. Oh, you're going to the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Wow,
where's
perfect.
that? So that was as close as I got. Thankfully, was to Vietnam was a set of
Well, you didn't
orders,
have
but
to.
the it seemed like the Paris peace talks were going on right about then. Was that what actually finally got you released then?
That's exactly what got us released, Lynn. And the one day they started moving us around. Well, what got us released was President Nixon sent the B-52s over there to bomb the hell out of Hanoi.
Yeah.
And that's what ended the war. And after that, they started moving us around into different areas. And they got us one day, they brought us out in the courtyard and they read us this proclamation. Basically, it was a declaration of war that was the end of the war that was signed by them. And they said January 27th of 73. And they said, this is the date the war ends. And every 2 weeks, a group of UPOWs is going home. And we'd already decided that and had orders that we would go home in the order that we got there, with the exception of the guys that were really sick and hurt. They went on with the first group as well.
First in, first out.
That's it. Yep. Yeah. And that pretty much, a 141 and a C-130 flew in every 2 weeks. And then finally one day, no 141 or no 130. We're going, oh, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
And plus the guards started treating us they were quite angry. And we're going, well, something's going on. And I finally figured out what happened. And once I got released back at the White House, I'll tell you that story in a minute. But bottom line, then I think it was delayed about 6 or 7 days, and then it continued on schedule, and we got home.
Yeah.
Basically, the release date, we got out of the prison camp, jumped on a bus. They drove us from that to Guillaume Airport. And Lynn, I bet there wasn't 300 feet without a 500-pound bomb crater.
Wow.
I mean, they literally just bombed that place into submission. That's why they signed the peace agreement.
Yeah.
And we got out to the airport. We went, we were in formation. We walked up to the Navy guys, saluted an admiral. The Air Force guys saluted a general. And we had an escort that walked us over to the back of the 141. The whole time I was there, I wouldn't allow myself to cry because I felt that if I did, I'd lose it. And so I just didn't. I sucked it all in. I walked up to the back of that 141, Lynn. There was a big American flag on the top. There was a bunch of flight nurses and crew and some of the guys that had already been there clapping. And God Bless America was playing. Well, I started crying like a baby. I was walking up there, and I could hardly see the ramp because I was crying so much. And it was, I get emotional telling the story about it right now. I really do. I'll never forget it.
Very good. Okay, so from Hanoi to Clark in the Philippines for a few days before you actually made it back to the States?
Yep, we spent 3 days at Clark and pretty much stayed awake for 3 days. We had so much adrenaline going on. And funny story, the first group of guys that got back, they thought, well, these guys have spent years over here. We better give them a real bland diet, because their system is going to be all messed up. So they had all this bland stuff, soup and everything. Well, that lasted about 5 seconds. And they said, no.
No.
We want steak, we want lobster, and we want whiskey. Maybe not so much in that order. So by the time all of us guys got there, we got anything we wanted, man, which was steak and lobster and whiskey.
Very good. As it should be. As it should be.
Yep.
So you were back stateside then within, 10 days or something?
Well, we spent 3 days at Clark and then flew straight back. I went to Sacramento at the Air Force Base there.
Okay.
And then I was assigned to the Naval Hospital in Alameda, California.
Yeah.
And we, like in Clark and at the hospital, we got debriefed and more physical exams and all that kind of stuff. While we were at Clark, we got all new uniforms made for us. Every one of our khakis, dress blues, whites, all that stuff, all made for us. And then we got home and, of course, got to meet the family. And I was in the hospital. I'd been in the hospital I'd been home about 10 days. And my former skipper, who was commanding officer of my squadron, the whole air wing was at Fallon, Nevada. And he called me and he says, "Hey, Pig." That was my classy call sign, by the way.
Yeah.
And
heard that a few times over the years.
Once or twice, probably. And he said, any chance you want to come over here and fly an A7? I said, "Yes, sir. Can I come today?" And he said, "Well, no, but I'll send the T-28 for you tomorrow if you want to come." Oh, heck yeah. So I went out to the Alameda Naval Air Station and P-28 landed, and he had flight suit, all my flight gear and everything. Jumped in that thing, flew over to Fallon, and skipper met me, and he said, "Well, that's my A7. That's your A7. Let's go fly." That's
All
all you got to say. And he that was he was the second incredible example of leadership that I saw, Lynn, because that man, everybody in that squadron would have done anything for him. As a matter of fact, I named my second son Jason after him.
Mm.
His name was Lou Chatter, and my son was Jason Lewis Penn. He put his basic career on the line to let me jump in that A7, because God forbid if anything had happened, it'd have been his neck.
You technically hadn't been cleared for flight as
Oh,
of
hell
then.
no.
Yeah.
I got no clearance, no nothing. He just said, "You want to come fly?" Oh, hell yes, I want to come fly. And so we went out, did a section takeoff, went out and dropped some bombs, did some dogfighting, came back in, and the Admiral came out, and I augmented into the regular Navy that day, signed the papers.
Wow.
And I mean, it's right out of the movies, man. Can't make that stuff up. I was the first POW out of 600 and some guys to fly.
Wow.
Because most of the guys, especially the Air Force guys, they had to go through this major training thing in San Antonio and all this kind of stuff. But next thing I know, I'm qualified.
And the great circle of life point of all this is, who was that guy that you had met, 10 years before?
That solo pilot that signed my picture, that inspired me to fly in the Navy, that said, "I'll see you in the fleet, son." His name was Lee Chatham, the same guy.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Now, what are the odds? What are the odds?
That's a great story.
It is, man. It is.
In and of itself. All right. So you spent a few more years in the Navy, right? Before you decided to get out.
Yeah.
Got a chance to fly F4s for a bit.
Sure did. Loved it.
Then
That's that machine right there.
funny how those just happen to be close.
They just happen to be there.
And I think I see one of the red-bellied warplanes up above that. So
yes, sir. You got that. That's that one with that big yellow paint job on it.
Yeah, that's what New Mexico or something. New Mexico 1 or something.
Yeah, New Mexico. Yep, that's exactly right.
I ain't seen one in 20 years, so I'm just kind of drawing one out. But
yeah.
All right. So, and where we met, fast forward a few more years in the Navy, and then to Continental Airlines.
Yep.
Few years there. You met kind of a special lady, your wife.
Sure did. Lucky me.
And then November of 82, I remember that one pretty good. That's when you and I first met, new hire class at Southwestern Global Airways. So
day one. Yep. Day one.
And we were fortunate enough to join that outfit. What we were like 353, you were 345 probably, but on the seniority list at the time. I don't know, were you at that one union meeting where Chris Turkile came in and said, well, we really shouldn't have hired that last group of 10 because it screwed up the lines or bid lines or something.
Yep.
I was sitting next to Jeff Kilponen at that point. We kind of looked at each other like, should we go call our old boss and see if we can get our old jobs back? But from there, it went crazy. It grew.
Yep.
We upgraded in industry-wide years ahead of what our compatriots over at American or United or Continental was probably dang near out of business at that point. But
oh no, if we hadn't bought Muse Air, we'd have upgraded twice as fast.
Yeah, but
we got to see the good part.
All fun and games there for a while, and then you went through another kind of little bit of a dark period. We kept in touch right much. Hell, we shared a boat together back in the 80s.
I was getting ready to say my darkest period, I think, was back in the boat town before I did the trailer tilt on it. Oh, I thought I was going to die on that one, man. Lynn's going to kill me for that one. Fortunately, it didn't.
Little growing pains with our first first Bahama Mama, I think is
Yep.
what we
Yep.
decided to call that
Sure
little
was
bit.
fun while it lasted, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Hey, and Grapevine Lake, you lived on one side of it, I lived on the other. It was just a
Mm-hmm.
great, we had that little T hanger to back the boat in right by the
Yep.
ramp almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good little lake to get out the kids and stuff. I had two at that point, but we kind of lost touch here a little bit. Crew base changes and being spread out and stuff. But then probably about you went through some dark times, so you want to.
I did. And bottom line, I'd lost both my parents way too early. And just all the above and a bunch of other stuff. I ended up drinking too much, Lynn. And I did in the Navy, and but nobody ever called me on it. And I didn't. I never came to work drunk with the airlines at all, but I drank too much. And finally, my lovely wife had about all the fun she could stand. And we were out in California. My son was in the Navy for 6 years, and he was coming back from cruise on the Kitty Hawk. So we flew out there and met him, and I drove him back to Lemoore, and we were on the way back to LAX. And my wife said, "Hey, I got this place just north of the airport there. I want to show you. I think you'll like it." Okay. And we pulled up there and parked. She popped the trunk, grabbed my suitcase, threw it out on the ground, said, "You got a room in there for 30 days. If you don't stay and do what they tell you to do, you're never going to see me or your daughter again." And I went, "Holy moly. She's
Yeah.
serious about this." So I went, "Okay." So I went in there and I teamed up with a Beverly Hills lawyer and an attorney. And we're trying to figure out not only how we're going to get out of here, but how we're going to sue them. Because we didn't belong there with all
Yeah.
those people. We were
Yeah.
different, see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but we were going to sue them because the swimming pool didn't look like the brochure. How about that?
Was there alcohol involved in that decision by chance?
Well, previous alcohol was involved in it. Yeah, we didn't have anywhere in there. But
Uh,
about a week later, fortunately, I had a counselor that was a great big guy, a Marine, and he had heard just about all the smart-ass remarks out of my mouth he wanted to hear. We were in a group thing one day, and I popped off some smart-ass thing. He actually walks over to me, pushes me up against the wall, and said, "Mike, your way of doing things, you're 51 years old, and now you're in a treatment center in California. Why don't you shut the hell up and let us tell you about a better way to live?" And oh, by the way, do you remember how you felt when your dad stuck a gun in his mouth and killed himself? Do you want your kids to feel the same way when you do it? That did it, Lynn. Almost brought me to my knees. And I went, "Yeah, you're right. I need to be
I
here."
bet. I bet.
Yep. And the rest is history. That was 28 something years ago.
Did you, and congratulations, brother. Definitely a turning point for you. But didn't you have like a special guest that you didn't really recognize at the time? Seems to me I read something and I'm thinking I
Oh
know who you
yeah,
meant, but
yeah. I was pondering whether I put in the book or not, but because when I wrote the book, he was still alive, and we're standing around in there, and they drugged this guy into my room. I mean, long hair, filthy. Just threw him in. He collapsed on the bed, and then when he finally woke up, they said, "You got to take care of him." And when he finally woke up, he was a Brit, so he's talking with this British accent. I couldn't understand what he's saying anyway. And I mean, he could barely walk, and
oh
I,
man.
I had to help him shower and get dressed and the whole deal. And he was there with me for about 2.5 weeks. And anyway, he got straightened up, and his wife came to see him every weekend. We got to meet her, and really sharp lady. Uh, and he had brought with him about 300 Cuban cigars and his guitar. So he's a musician. So at night, when we had some free time, wasn't much, we get to go out back and we play the guitar, sing, and smoke cigars. And you come to find out, what I said in the book was, since I was afraid to put the name in there because you have to wait till people die before you can put names in a book. That's why Herb Keller never wrote a book. And he says, I asked him that one day, how come you haven't wrote a book, Herb? He says, because if a whole bunch of people got to die before I can do that. So what I said in the book was, yeah, he was a famous rock star. And there are stories that he supposedly bit the head off a bat at a performance.
That's what
And
gave it
well,
away to me.
I can say that now. Yeah, it was Ozzy. And
I'll be
once
darned.
he sobered up, he was a really good guy, man. Really good guy. But it was quite an experience, and
I'll bet.
it humbled me out to the point where I needed it. It really
Well,
did.
and look at the results since then. So
Yep.
that's an admirable thing there.
Yeah. Fortunately for the HIMSS program in the airlines, and
Well, that was the next thing. You got involved with that, right? There at
yeah,
Southwest.
I was like the HIMSS guy in Houston. Uh, well, when I was on the air medical committee when I got back, but once I got in the chief pilot's office, I
Mhm.
was the HIMSS guy in Houston. So fortunately, got to help a whole bunch of guys.
Good. And that's the thing is getting them the help because most
Yep.
people with that support can turn their life around.
Absolutely. You just have to
And
accept it. That's the hardest part.
well, very good. Through that, and you've been doing that, been involved with that for like 28 years as well, right? You started
Oh,
as just an attendee at the local meeting, and the guy ended up putting you in charge, kind of.
yeah. What happens, Lynn, in the airlines, in the HIMSS world, it takes, well, back when I went through, you had to be off about 6 months because there were a lot of boxes you had to check and do a
Sure.
bunch of stuff and interviews with FAA people and stuff. But now it's about a year to come back. But part of that is you got to go to meetings and you have to go to aftercare once a week and all this kind of stuff. Well, I went to this aftercare place at a hospital where a doctor taught it, and his name was Dr. Bob Ella. Dr. Bob was, believe it or not, a PhD and an MD,
Oh,
and
wow.
he was in charge of the unit there at this hospital. Phenomenally enough, he was an Army Air Corps pilot, shot down and captured in Japan right at the end of the war, and he was a POW in Japan.
Oh, wow.
So, needless to say, he and I were pretty tight.
I
And he was
bet.
actually like a dad to me, man. I was 51, he was like 70 something, but what a neat guy. I learned so much from him. And I went to this group every Saturday morning for 2 years. And one Wednesday or Thursday night, he calls me at home and he said, Mike, I'm having pretty serious surgery next morning. And I need to ask you a favor. And I said, yes, sir. He said, if anything's happened to me and I don't make it, I want you to promise me you'll keep that meeting going on Saturday morning. And I said, well, absolutely, sir. But, I'm no doctor. But he said, you don't need to be a doctor. He said, they will listen to you. That's all he said. Well, he died. He didn't make it. So I've been running that group for 26 years every Saturday morning at 9:30.
Wow. Some
And
more of
we
that
said,
giving back. Some of your,
yeah, exactly right. And
some more of
yeah,
your service.
that day I got my ass shot down, and about probably 7 or 8 different ways in a 5-minute period. I should have been dead, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I finally figured out why, because a lot of people out there need some help I could give.
That's that God thing.
It absolutely is, without a doubt. No
uh,
doubt about it.
you, and I'm not sure of the timeline because I wasn't even sure of when you were doing it. I wasn't aware of when you were doing it, but your speaking engagements and some of the speaking tours that you've done in semi-recent years. In the last page of the book, there's a way to get in touch with you, people, if they want to hear more of your story or uh, get you as a speaker, or I mean, are you still
Yeah.
doing those?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure am, Lynn. COVID cut it down a lot. Everything
Yeah.
just went to a screeching halt almost for a couple of years after COVID. But yeah, I am. And on the back cover uh, of the book, there's a link to my website. And on this business card right there,
Yeah.
one of them is a link to the website. The other one is a link to buying the book right on Amazon. It'll take you
Okay.
right to it. But yeah, my buddy made these things for me, thankfully. He's the artistic guy, and I'm not. That's the way it always will be.
Very good.
And yeah, and the website is when I was with Frank over in which I still am actually, the speaker bureau over there. We shot 4 demo videos. It's about a 4 or 5 minute clip of 4 different subjects that I talk about when I do presentation. It's
Mm-hmm.
customer service, leadership, teamwork, and POW story. And when people hire me, I just did one a month ago for a bank, and they wanted a little bit from each one.
Mm-hmm.
So each time I do it, I said, well, what would you like to hear? And I
Sure.
tailor the presentation toward
Yeah.
whatever they wanted.
And you've been doing
But
some book signings as well, right? Different
yeah,
places.
I have. Yeah, several places. People buy the books, they bring them in and sign them. And there's a couple of places I've taken a huge veterans convention that was here.
Mm-hmm.
I took a bunch of books and sold them
Very good.
and signed them, and turned out to be a fun deal. I got a couple more of those coming up here shortly.
And
It's a lot of fun.
where's your book available? Amazon?
It is on Amazon, Lynn. Yeah, and basically you go on Amazon, you type in. Most of the time, when you type in Mike Penn, the book will come right up.
Okay.
Open Courage, and it's done good.
And like
Hadn't
you
hit
said
the
earlier,
bestseller
that's
list yet, but
paperback and Kindle versions.
and Kindle,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right.
Kindle's about half the price of the paperback, and neither one of them costs much, so it's a pretty good deal.
Very good.
And shared a lot of life lessons in there.
It's an excellent book. I've read it. Like I said,
Mm.
some of it I giggled at, and some of it was
Yeah,
a little too close to home. But,
yeah, I know, I understand.
it's a great book. Highly recommend it. I think I told you I recommended it to a counselor that I've done some work with.
Yeah.
Telling her it'd be a good way to get into some veterans' heads. So,
Yes, sir. Actually, that's exactly what I wrote it for, because there's so many that, 22 a day kill himself when. And man, if I could save one life with that book, then it's worth it.
yes, sir. Thank you so much for
Thank you, buddy. It's been a
coming in
pleasure.
today.
Really.
It was great catching up with you. And again, the notice of disclaimer: we've been friends some 43 years now, but there are a few blank spots, even from what you've been doing, what I've been doing. The wheels came off when I was flying out of Baltimore, and I just kind of hid out for a few years, I think, but lost contact. But good to see you again. Just this past summer, and we'll probably be down there through the holidays. See that new granddaughter of ours, so I'll try and catch up with you.
Please
At that
do,
point,
man. Please do. I
if you're gonna
appreciate
be
you having
around,
me,
so.
Lynn. You really enjoyed it. You do a great job on your podcast.
All
Best of
right.
luck.
Thank you, Mike. Again, the book is Hope and Courage, Mike Penn, available on Amazon. Check it out. It's a good read. Good read. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
Catch
sir.
up with you soon.
You betcha. Bye now.